Assalamu alaikum, good evening, selamat sore, and welcome everyone to our first session for this week, our final week of the thematic programming for our online sessions for this year. And today we're very much looking forward to exploring the extremely important topic of both inter and intra-faith dialogue and inclusivity. So as always, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we all live and work. For myself and Rowan, that's the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. We recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community, and pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. As usual, our housekeeping for the day, if you could change your profile name, if you haven't already, I noticed several people have, to your name and your location, so that our speakers can have a sense of where everyone is joining us from today. And wherever possible, it would be great if you could have your cameras on, so that it's easy for us to see each other and put a face to the name especially when we get into our discussion. And finally, today's session will be recorded for internal purposes only. As usual, we request that no one records any of the audio from our session so that we all feel comfortable to be able to speak freely. So now turning to our topic for today, which is another of my favorites during our program and time together, because as you are all very aware, diversity and inclusion are really core principles of our AIMEP program. And part of the reason for that is that we recognise that in our day-to-day life, it's just natural for most of us to gravitate towards people who are similar to ourselves in some way. But at the same time, we also recognise that the connections across communities can often be some of the most powerful. And so through the AIMEP, we strive to provide a space where people from different communities can come together. So whether that's from across diverse fields of work, religious traditions and community contributions, as is represented amongst all of you, our delegates, all through conversations like the one that we're about to have together today. So our session today will offer us the opportunity to really dive a bit deeper into the experience of connecting with others who may be different from us in a few different ways. And today we're looking at difference in the religious space in particular, whether it be through interfaith connections with someone from a different religion or through intra-faith connection with people from different madhabs and religious Islamic traditions to ourselves. Both of these experiences offer unique opportunities to not only learn about understanding and connecting with each other, but also to learn more deeply about ourselves and our own connection to faith and community. And so as Professor Mutti reminded us during his session last week, we'd very much like to invite all of you today to be listeners during our session, as well as taking the opportunity to really reflect on your own practice and interactions with others who come from different communities to your own. We are very privileged to have with us two highly regarded speakers today, both of whom are strongly committed and very active in the process of building communities of understanding, compassion and connection. So it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker for today, Reverend Dr. Patrick McInerney. Father Patrick is a Columban missionary priest and director of the Columban Centre for Christian-Muslim Relations in Sydney. A long-time advocate for interreligious understanding, he was assigned as a priest in Pakistan from 1979 until 2000, where he worked in parishes and participated in early interfaith efforts in that country. Since 2002, he's continued on that important work in Australia through the Columban Centre for Christian-Muslim Relations. Father Patrick has taught courses in interreligious dialogue and Christian and Islam at the Catholic Institute of Sydney and the Australian Institute of Theological Education. and he's regularly invited to speak on Christian-Muslim relations. He is active in interfaith engagement across a broad range of different platforms and audiences. Father Patrick is also in Fiji at the moment with a very full schedule of meetings. So he has very kindly agreed to take some time out from those commitments to join us for our session together. So we are very grateful to him for that and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much, Father Patrick.
Thank you very much for that generous invitation, and thank you to everybody for joining. I'm happy to share with you this evening. So the topic is interfaith dialogue, and I will talk particularly about Christian-Muslim relations. Why does it matter? Why is it important? In A Common Word, a document addressed by Muslim scholars to Christian leaders everywhere in 2007, the Muslim scholars made the point that Christians and Muslims together make up over 55% of the world's population. So if there is to be meaningful peace in the world, there has to be understanding between Christians and Muslims. If there is no understanding between Christians and Muslims, when we represent so much of the world's population, there will be unrest and disturbance and a lack of peace. So that's a very basic demographic reason for interfaith relations. But for me, as a Christian, the most important reason and motivation and encouragement for me to be involved in Christian-Muslim relations and in interfaith relations in general is my Christian faith. It's my belief in Jesus Christ as the universal Lord and Savior, Son of God, second person of the Blessed Trinity, which calls me to reach out in dialogue with people of other religions. I am called to show the love and mercy and compassion that I have experienced in Christ and to show that to others. It is not seeking converts, though sometimes that can happen. Interreligious dialogue is not about seeking converts. It's about building mutual understanding and working together for the common good. So it's showing love, it's showing acceptance. The basic command of the gospel is, or one of them, is love your neighbor. And if a Muslim is not living in my particular neighborhood, or there are no Hindus or Buddhists, the reality in our modern world is that people of other faiths have come into our living rooms. They've come through our TV screens. They've come through our mobile screens. We are all interconnected. We are all interrelated. And so our neighbor is always a fellow Christian, a Muslim, a Baha'i, a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Sikh, a person of no faith at all. And we are all sisters and brothers. And there's another line in the gospel that says you were taught, love your neighbor, but I mean, even sinners do that. They love those who love them. I command you, love your enemy. Now, I'm not saying that people of other faiths are our enemies, but I am saying the radical command of the gospel is to love everybody, regardless of who they are or where they come from, and especially to have a concern for the poor and the marginalized, those living on the margins. And Pope Francis wrote a teaching document a couple of years ago called Fratelli Tutti. It's a Latin title. It means all brothers. And he makes the point that we are all sisters and brothers together, journeying together through this pilgrim path in life, supporting one another and working with one another. Now, here's just a comment to make. One of the reasons why we must pay attention to minorities in our respective communities is that they are the thermometer for how our society is functioning. If we treat the minorities well, then our society is functioning well. But if we are not treating the minorities well, then our society is not functioning well. Interfaith is particularly difficult in the present moment of the Israel-Hamas war. Both communities are consumed by their own concerns for their co-religionists. The Jews are concerned about the release of the hostages and the trauma that they suffered on October the 7th. Muslims, of course, are concerned about the horrendous, terrible situation of the people of Gaza being starved and bombed and just treated so terribly. But both parties are so consumed by their own concerns that they barely have space for the other. And there's also, of course, been a rise in anti-Semitism because of what we see happening in the world. There's also been a dramatic rise in Islamophobia. So that all adds to this tension and difficulty at the present moment. And some would say there's a paralysis, that people are not able to move and we're not able to speak. Whatever we say can be misconstrued by either side. But I believe it is still very important to continue to speak across this divide. We must uphold international law because that is what can call to war criminals to account. We must uphold human dignity because that is what can change enmity to friendship. And we must hold peace in our own hearts and spread it in our own neighborhoods. Even if we can't change the situation in the Middle East, at least we have control of our own situation, and we must not allow the hatred and the enmity to infect us and to disturb our relations. So we must continue to live peace with justice wherever and however we can. I would say that a lot of my work in Christian-Muslim relations is actually teaching Christians. It's teaching them about their obligation to reach out in faith and love with their Muslim neighbors, with their Baha'i neighbors, Buddhist neighbors, and so on, Sikh neighbors. So I give talks, I give seminars, I give webinars. Occasionally I get invited to parishes. So educating, forming Christians so that they will take up this responsibility of engaging in interreligious dialogue and building a multi-faith cohesive. I also attend Muslim events and Muslim talks. During Ramadan, I attend iftar dinners, and with the Diocese of Parramatta, we actually host a multi-faith community iftar dinner. So we are reciprocating the hospitality that we receive from so many Muslims. And Ramadan has become a wonderful interfaith season in Sydney and in other parts of the world, where Christians and Muslims meet each other, share a meal together. And it's a wonderful, wonderful way of breaking down stereotypes and prejudices and building friendships. I also attend the Eid prayers. It's a gesture of solidarity, of presence, of friendship, and respect. One of the programs that has been run in different places at different times is what's called a human library. So we would get representatives from different religions, a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Muslim, a Jew, and we would divide our audience up into 4 groups, and each of the groups would go around and sit with the representative from the other religion, who functions then as a book, an open book, and they share about their faith, and they share about their beliefs, and they share about their practices, and the group can ask questions. And after an interval of time of that sharing, the group moves on to the next human library book, the next person, and on to the next person and the next person. Again, this human encounter is very important. It's the best way for breaking down prejudice and stereotype. when all I know about Muslims is what I read in the newspapers or hear on the television, on the radio, or see on the television screen, I will inevitably have a distorted view of Muslims and Islam. But when I know Fatima or Muhammad or Jamal or Miriam, when I know a person, then the stereotype shatters, and I get to know the reality of the human person who is the believer. It's also important to do things in schools. I don't do a lot of work in schools myself because there's another organization in Sydney and in Australia, Together for Humanity, which facilitates programs in schools. I support them. I've occasionally participated in their events. And when someone else is doing it, there's no need for me to reinvent the wheel. But I would say schools, getting young people in the school is an important laying of the foundations for an multi-faith resilient society. I also have a strong presence on social media. We have a quarterly newsletter, Bridges. You can look up the Columban website, www.columban.org.au, and find the Columban website there and the interfaith page. I want to share another example of a fantastic example of interfaith relations. Now, in Western Sydney, not far from where I live, there's an organization called House of Sakina. It's a group of Muslim volunteers, of women who provide refuge for women and children fleeing domestic violence, who provide for those in need, for single mothers, those who are struggling economically. They provide food, they provide shelter, they provide places where people can come and meet. They do fantastic work serving the community, regardless of religion or race or ethnicity. Anyone who's in need, they serve them. And they do this without any government aid. So we came up with the idea of a food drive, and we invited the local parish to collect food for House of Sakina. And the women from House of Sakina came to the parish and they talked about their work. The Hajj season was coming up. They talked about pilgrimage. The Catholic women talked about their faith, and they shared the food which they gave to House of Sakina. 4 carloads of food to give to people so that they could have a happy celebration of Eid. Fantastic. Simple, practical, meaningful encounter between women and responding to need. An excellent example. And so that's 12 minutes, and I'm going to close with that. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Father Patrick, and for it really reflects the depth of your experience and the embodiment of the fact that you know what that connection between communities looks like. And I love the example that you offered to us at the end there. It's my great pleasure to introduce our second speaker for today. Just a reminder, everyone, that you are welcome to add your questions for both of our speakers as we go. Our second speaker is Kiai Haji Miftah Rahmat, who is an ustaz, a religious leader and a writer. He's head of the Shura Consultative Council with the Indonesian Ahlul Bayt Community Association, known as IJABI, Indonesia's pioneering national Shia community organization. Ustad Miftah is often invited to lecture at various universities, and he's also a regular contributor on both YouTube and the Jalan Rahmat website. He was previously CEO of the Mutahari Schools Foundation, a highly regarded school based in Bandung, West Java, which was founded in the 1990s by Ustad Miftah's late father, the much beloved Indonesian Islamic scholar Jalaluddin Rahmat. We also want to extend a very special thank you to Ustaz Miftah, who, like Father Patrick, is also traveling with several other commitments at the moment. So we're very grateful that he has also made the time to join us today from Makassar, where he's traveling in Eastern Indonesia. And we're very much looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much, Ustad Miftah.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you everyone for coming, and thank you for the opportunity, Pak Rowan, Bu Brina, and everyone, AIMEP. And thank you, Father Patrick, for sharing with us best practices. Since maybe this is meant to be, I would like to share my experiences dealing with the challenges, dealing with the obstacles. Father Patrick just gave us some of the best practices. We learned a lot from him, and I would like to deal now with some of the challenges we had over time. And when we set up an organization, IJABI, as Bu Brina mentioned, we have what we call 5 pillars of IJABI, the 5 pillars of our organization. I already sent to Bu Ulfa to please share the slide. And going from one point to another, for example, the obstacle and the challenges that we were and still are facing. First of all, the first pillar is the rational and spiritual Islam. For within Islam itself, or for us to have a good cooperation, connection, interfaith dialogue, we deal with some texts, both from the Quran or the Hadith, that some group may see it differently. So we are working on what we call rational and spiritual Islam, because when we are doing our interfaith activities or even intra-faith activities. Right now in Makassar, I just had a meeting with one of the professors in which he said that he would like to see a national discussion between Sunni, Shia, and Ahmadiyya. And I stated to him that we have already started that, but we are doing it virtually. During the pandemic, we had sessions of Sunni, Shia, and Ahmadiyya dialogues for almost 2 years. And he would love to see it conducted on a national level. So we are dealing with texts and manuscripts, verses of the Quran and the Hadith that could be interpreted differently. That's the first pillar. I'm not going too deep since we only have 10 or 12 minutes time. The second part is put akhlak before fikih. For intra-faith, for example, we have differences like in Islam, and I believe also with the denominations in other religion as well, based on how we interpret text from our holy scriptures, for example. In Indonesia, sometimes it causes trouble. Alhamdulillah, for the past, I think, 5 to 10 years, it's getting better and better, but still, sometimes between those who, let's say, when the fasting months came, some may start on Monday, the other on Tuesday, or when they are doing Salatul Tarawih, the night prayers, one group may perform it 11 units, 11 raka'ah, the other 23. Sometimes it causes debate, it causes differences. And we have what become a challenge for us when we put akhlak before fikih. Unfortunately, some group may see it as a form of they like allegation toward us. It's a form of taqiyah. Unfortunately, within Islam, within Sunni and Shia, there is this one practice called taqiyah. Taqiyah actually is a concept where when we are facing danger, we could do something to save ourselves from this danger. But some people thought that when we put this second pillar as our organization pillar, it is a form of taqiyya. No, it is not. It is what we believe, that fiqh or jurisprudence is partial, but akhlaq is universal. So we need to put universal values before our partial practices. For example, when people are doing is this night prayers in the month of Ramadan 11 or 23, and they were both arguing, probably raising their voices, and we are going to say, what is the law of performing the night prayers in the month of Ramadan? They are all going to say sunnah, which means it's not mandatory. But what is the law of arguing in the mosque? It's haram. It's forbidden. It's unlawful. So why are you doing the haram just to do something that is not mandatory? Again, I'm only giving small examples. Third one is pluralist Islam. And some group also ask us, is this a strategy when you put it into a pillar, or is this your belief? This is our belief, because in Shia, let's say we have Usuluddin, Furu'uddin. In Shia concepts, after the oneness of God comes adalah, God's justice. We believe that the source of, because the oneness of God means that the source of goodness is one, which is God. So any group, any belief, any tribes, any school of thought that teaches us goodness must come from one source, which is God. And I need to tell you, for example, the Ayatollah Khamenei, he is not only the leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, but in terms of religious teachings, he is an ulama, an alim, a marja, something people refer to, like a mufti. He issued a fatwa, and probably I don't know if this is new or not, but he mentioned that the Ahlul Kitab, which means the people of the book, traditionally it meant only the people of the book, like those who had Zabur revealed unto them, Taurat, and then Injil. Mostly only three books in Islamic traditions. People being called the people of the book because they receive Zabur, Taurat, and then Injil. Mostly in Islam, for example, Judaism and Christianity. But according to Ayatollah Khamenei, I could give you the link of his fatwa. He said that the people of the book is whoever God's teachings and God's prophet revealed to them. Not only the three books mentioned, but everywhere. He even said that the Zoroastrians in Iran, whom some people accuse of being like Majusi, worshipping fire, which is not actually, they are also people of the book. And according to Islam, there are more than 134 prophets sent to many places. And all of them, as long as the source of good is from one, which is God, so all of them can be considered people of the book. This is, in Islam, is something new, because he said also our interactions, our activities with people of the book does not have any difference at all. They all, as long as they teach goodness, it came from one source, God. So that's point number 3, rational Islam. I still have 2 more, yeah, to in order to catch up with the time. Madani Islam. But some people still, because in the Quran, for example, one day the Mufti of Syria, Syekh Ahmad, I think that time was Syekh Ahmad Kaftaru, with Pope. I was there at that time, because in Syria there was a mosque used to be a church and then a mosque and then a church and then a mosque where Prophet Yahya, Job, was buried there. So it place for both Muslim and Christians. And they were praying there together. And some people ask, is it okay to pray together between Muslims and Christians? They still see that we cannot do. For social activities, it's okay. We live together. Tasamuh, we live together. But this is an act of worship. Praying is an act of worship. It cannot be done together. Both of these two religious figures said, the Mufti of Syria and Pope said, we are not praying together. No, we are together in prayer. The one who asked, like, what's the difference? Well, it's difference actually. So that's the third pillar of Ijabi. The fourth one would be the Islam Madani, to answer our loyalty, quote unquote, to religion and to the nation. We do not divide our loyalties between these two. In other words, being a good Muslim is to be a good citizen. And to be a good citizen is to be a good Muslim. And the last one is the empowerment of Mustadafin. We side with the oppressed, as Father Patrick mentioned. What happened in Palestine is not a matter of faith, it's a matter of humanity. And I would like to end with the last slide, a quote from Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib, Karramallahu wajhah, from Imam Ali, saying that An-nasun nisfan, people are of two types, imma akhuka fid din wa imma naziruka fil khalaq. Whether they are either your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity. Now, some people might say that these two types differentiate people. No, we should see that the Imam Ali emphasized, when you have a brother in faith, you have your responsibility, you have to answer before the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him. But when you deal with your equals in humanity, your responsibility is toward the Almighty Lord. Like you need to answer before Him. So this is not like differentiating between brothers in faith or equals in humanity, because Imam Ali said, "Nadhiruka fil khalaq," your equals in humanity. This is the step higher actually, when you have something different or arguing with your brothers in intra-faith, you are going to answer the questions from the Prophet Muhammad SAW, but to our fellow human beings, you are going to stand before God and answer why we did not do anything when our brothers and friends are suffering in every parts of the world. So it's much higher actually. To my understanding, Imam Ali put your equals in humanity in a much higher position. We could disagree, and I would love to disagree with you as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity, Bu Brina and Pak Rawan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, Ustad Miftah, and for the beautiful quote that you ended on as well. It looks like people haven't finished typing in their questions yet, so I'm going to either invite people to just put up a hand if you have one, while others are thinking. But until then, I might start off with one of my own questions, perhaps for Father Patrick. One aspect of, you mentioned the importance of interfaith starting from the school level, and I know that for Indonesians that's quite an unusual concept. Faith education within schools is very often only learning about your own faith tradition. I was wondering if you might perhaps like to just explain for particularly for our Indonesian delegates what interfaith can look like within a school system, and also how that's received, because again I feel like within Indonesia there's a bit of a sense that perhaps school age is too young to be starting that kind Oh, and I'll start looking at the questions coming in through the chat. But if you'd like to start with that one, that would be great.
In a sense, I don't think it's ever too young. Even small children, they simply respond to each other at a human level. They don't see color, they don't see difference of religion, they just see a friend. So the smallest of children are already showing us the way. In schools in Australia, there is a studies of religion as part of the curriculum. And so that allows students to study other religions. Of course, there are faith-based schools, Catholic schools and Muslim schools and Jewish schools. And one of the things that Together for Humanity does, the organization that I spoke about, it sometimes arranges visits between schools so that a delegation or a class of Muslim students come to a Jewish school and Jewish students go to a Muslim school or to a Christian school. And in that way, the students meet each other, they hear about each other's faiths, they learn about each other, and they get to know one another. And of course, when the young people get together, they start swapping their social media content straight away. They just naturally build connections. So, yes, I think it certainly can happen in schools.
Yep. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I love that idea. I think it's very true that when you're particularly young, you see others mainly as a play date. You don't a play opportunity without thinking about all the complicated questions that we get into once we're adults. I might invite Darrell if you'd like to ask your question, and then we can invite both of our speakers to respond.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Brenda, for the opportunity. So, as you can read in the chat box, I think this is still I'm still thinking about this like all the time, because when we talk about doing interfaith or intra-faith dialogue, we sometimes talk about the notion of peace, the notion of love between beliefs, and so on. So we rarely find the critical issue that we can face. And when it comes to the truth claim, we'll find that the awkward moment in doing dialogue between religion and beliefs. I had experience when we did one interfaith dialogue, and then there is someone, I think he's a Christian, and then he asked me like, why do you Muslim believe that our books is amended? And I'm freezing, and then just say like, because that's what my teacher told me. I don't know how to deal with that issue. So I just telling you what I have in my mind. So maybe Father Patrick or Pak Kiai Mifta, you have experience or tips how to actually deal with this, or should we actually avoid this kind of questions? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll go first if that's okay.
Yep, that would be great. Thank you.
Among the practitioners of interfaith dialogue, we talk about 4 types of dialogue: the dialogue of life, the dialogue of action, the dialogue of theological knowledge, and the dialogue of religious experience. So interfaith dialogue encompasses all those 4 dimensions. So the dialogue of life is simply living together. It's that neighborhood type of good relations, sharing a cup of sugar across the fence, or participating in each other's significant moments of celebrating a birth, mourning a death, being part of the life of the community, the dialogue of life. The dialogue of action is working together on social justice issues based on common shared values. So it could be working for the environment, working for cleaning up the neighborhood, working against drugs, could be supporting, like House of Sakina, women in crisis. So it's working together on social issues. The dialogue of theological exchange is that more complicated one, which you're addressing in terms of sharing about our different beliefs And of course, we do have differences. And I'll come back to that in a minute. And the fourth one is a dialogue of religious experience, which is talking about spirituality, how we pray, what moves us in our lives, how we experience God's direction in our lives, what does Scripture mean to us, and so on. It's the spiritual side of life. And often we can find that we can connect at that level, even when our beliefs are significantly different. So I'll come back to the dialogue of beliefs. Some people say this is only for experts. I disagree. If I ask a woman, why are you wearing that piece of cloth on her head? And she replies, it's because I believe God requires me to do it. We're having a theological dialogue. So theological dialogue, I think, can be done by anybody. We simply share our beliefs. We're not expecting the other person to agree with us, and we won't agree with them. You know, there's obvious differences between Christians and Muslims. Number one, Trinity, the role and identity of Jesus Christ, the role and identity of the Prophet Muhammad, the nature of scriptures. We have differences about these things. What's important is to respect the sincerity with which the other person holds their belief. It's part of respecting the dignity of the human person. So we're not always going to agree, but at least we can always respect each other. And finally, some of the things that we talk about, of course, we're talking about God, belief in God. And God is by definition not able to be understood. God is beyond comprehension. God is mystery. And we only, no matter how clear and convinced we are in our beliefs, they are only just touching into the infinite unknowability of God. And so I like a quote which is in one of the documents of the Catholic Church. The document is called Dialogue and Proclamation. I think it's paragraph 49. And it says, in the final analysis, truth is not something that we possess, but a person by whom we must allow ourselves to be possessed. And it is an unending process. So God is truth, ineffable mystery, who possesses us. And our life journey is a journey into that ineffable mystery of God. And along the way, we share with each other the insights that we learn. It's an excellent question. Thank you for asking.
Thank you very much for such a beautiful response. Ustaz Miftah, would you like to add anything?
Okay. I would like to share a story from Indonesian or Indonesian Islamic perspective. Maybe Indonesians, I think, will be familiar with a comic book called Siksa Kubur. Yeah, The Torment of the Graves. They made even a movie out of it, and it became bestseller. And it originated from a story that you will be asked in the grave, who is your Lord? Who is your prophet? What is your book? And if you answer wrong, the angels will punish you. So I'm talking about like the truth is how to answer these questions truly. So if I say, what is your God? And I say, Father in heaven, according to this perspective, no, your answer is wrong. And then the angels will torture us. But I have another point of view. I think the angels of the grave are not interrogation officer. No, they are immigration officer. Because we are moving from one world to the other. So they ask, who is your Lord? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Please go to door number 1. Who is your Lord? Father in heaven. Please go to door number 2. Who is your Lord? Sang Hyang Widi. Please go to door number 3. Yeah. And then we are, for example, for Muslims, we may answer our prophet, our Lord is Allah. But we have different prophets. And different prophet came different risalah, different teachings. Even we share the same God, we share the same prophet, we share the same book. What we have different kiblat we pray to, because the first generation of Muslim prayed toward Masjid al-Aqsa in Palestine. Second one, after the prophet emigrated to Medina, they moved the kiblat to Masjid al-Haram in Makkah. Those people who pray facing the Masjid al-Aqsa and passed away in Makkah had never never had a chance to fast during the holy months of Ramadan, because fasting was made obligatory in Medina period of time. So if he is being asked, why didn't you fast? Because it was an obligatory for me. And then the angel torture. For us, it is against the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when being asked the truth, it is not upon what we believe, it is upon what we believe according to our own circumstances, in which we could answer the questions later on. But the truth, according to the Almighty Lord, according to the angel, is much, much, much more, as Father mentioned, mysterious, much more significant, what we cannot comprehend. Just sharing the story. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for that as well, Ustad Miftah. I have this image of heaven as immigration checkpoints now, but in a much more loving and compassionate form.
Yes, I do have a request though. Don't make it viral.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you so much. No, that's yeah. I might actually invite Anjum if I can, if you'd like to ask your question of Father Patrick and about the aspect of, anyway, there's two parts to your question and you're welcome to ask them. Thank you so much.
Hi, Father Patrick. Thank you so much for your reflections and your very honest talk, very insightful. So my first question is mainly about your faithful leadership. And, I think the Christians and Muslims share that aspect that we are people of faith and people of belief. But it's an ever-changing world. So there are many people now that are either agnostic or atheist. How do you maintain your faith in this time? But also, how do you maintain that strength in your faithful leadership? So not just somebody of faith, but somebody with an open faith and a very honest faith, public faith, you could say. Do you have any advice for us as someone of experience and our elder in this? Do you have any advice for us as Muslim young leaders in Australia and Indonesia? And the second one is a bit cheeky, please forgive me. It's just a question I've always wanted to ask somebody of another faith, which is there something that you'd like to know about Muslim Australians or Indonesians that or you think that the Christians would like to know, like, that has never been asked, or maybe you're too shy to ask? And what would that question be that could help build bridges, I guess? Thank you.
Okay, in answer to the first question, I would say that engaging with people of other faiths has strengthened my own faith. When I encounter differences and things that I don't agree with, or it causes questions in my mind, I obviously, to give an example, I believe in the Trinity. Now, no other religion believes in the Trinity, 3 persons in one God. But because other people haven't believed that, it's forced me to reflect and think and learn about my own faith. So I now have a deeper appreciation of the Trinity. It's not something that I can share with you because it's part of Christian faith and it's not part of Muslim faith. But precisely because I've been meeting with Muslims and Buddhists and Jews and Baha'is and Zoroastrians who don't share this belief, that I've been challenged to grow in my own faith and appreciation of the Christian faith that was handed down to me. So that would be how I would answer the first question. In answer to what Christians would like to know about Muslims, I think there's some people talk about a holy envy in interfaith. Envy is obviously one of the sins, but when we look at other faiths and we appreciate something in them, so I admire the discipline, for example, of Muslims during the Ramadan fast. I admire the discipline and the unity of the Salat. I've attended mosques where there have been thousands of Muslims. You hear the azan, and then silence descends, and people bow, prostrate in worship to the one God, our Creator, and the merciful one before whom we come for judgment. And so I admire the discipline and the unity of faith that is so evident. I'm not sure what questions I would like to ask, because I'm sorry, I feel I know a fair bit anyway. What would other Christians like to ask? I suppose that I like what motivates you, what moves you in your life, what gives you spiritual energy to carry out and to live out your faith. And I think that would create a rapport between us, because we'd probably discover that we have similar spiritual attraction to the life of faith. So I hope that's a little bit helpful.
Thank you. It was. And Sister Brina, can I ask the same question, but kind of from an intra-faith aspect to Ustaz Miftah as well, from the Shia and Sunni aspect, if possible?
Thank you. Which one? Things I would like to ask to...
Both.
Yeah. Remind me again with the first one, if you...
The first one is your advice on how you practice your deen in a I don't know as much about Indonesia, but in Australia it's...
I know.
Yeah.
Same with Father Patrick. Like in Indonesia we have a saying, dialog antar iman diawali dengan dialog antar teman. Which means interfaith dialogue started with dialogue between friends. Unfortunately, it doesn't rhyme in English. So I don't have any difficulties dealing with going together. And I think we reach our maturity in interfaith dialogue when we joke about it. And this is a good, healthy jokes. I could have many jokes, religious jokes, interfaith jokes, or intra-faith jokes. I'll give example. For example, during the fasting months, we have a iftar together with our Catholics father, and then we break our fast. And Romo, we call it, the father, was standing beside me, and he was smoking. I asked Romo in Indonesian, Romo kok rokok, which means, Romo, why do you smoke? He said, Pak Miftah, I am not allowed to marry. Please allow me to say this one. so, you know, I mean, it might be intended as a joke, but it shows understanding, etc., etc., etc. I have many of jokes like share together. If you would like another one, I could give also for what kind of level. But for intra-faith, for intra-faith between Sunni and Shia, you know, the Sunni is called Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaah. Jamaah means congregation. And I once joked with, maybe, I think you know, Professor Nadir Shah Hussain, a lecturer now in Melbourne Uni. I said, Gus Nadir, Prof, the Jamaah truly is a term for Shia. Why? Because when you have million people lining up and you do not have an imam, it doesn't make a Jamaah. But if you have only two people, and one step up as an imam, you have jama'ah. Yeah, this is a joke. Once again, please take it as a joke. And then Gus Nadir laughed out loud, and then he said, yes, but how could you have a congregation when the imam is in occultation? Imam is in a state of ghaibat. He referred to a Shia belief that the 12th imam is right now on occultation. So a joke is responded by another joke. I think it shows an understanding at the same time a maturity, but this is not for public consumption. So when you reach this level of maturity, you could joke when you understand the differences at the same time. I don't know if that answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer, Ustaz Miftah. I feel like you both answered the question and also highlighted an important cultural learning for our Australians, that humour is very important in Indonesian culture and society. I might invite Iman, if you would like to ask your question of Father Patrick. It's a very Australia-specific question, but I think one that will be really of interest to everyone. Or if you're able to. Yep, great.
Yes. It's been, I think, answered, but if Father Patrick, if you have anything further to add, I was wondering, in Australia, from my understanding, the proportion of people who identify. Can you hear me? Yep. The proportion of people who now identify as not believing in God or associating with the religion is increasing. So how can we do a better job at involving those who are atheists or agnostic in interfaith dialogue? And you really broadened my perspective on it today. I'm talking about interfaith dialogue not just being theological discussions, but potentially working towards common good causes. And the work that you've done with Sakina, which I found really inspiring. But if you've got anything further to add, I'd love to hear.
Suppose I would make this comment that we are familiar with religious worldviews, our belief systems. You know, Islam has its belief system, Christianity has its belief system, Buddhism has its belief system. Now, the truth is that those who have a secular worldview, those who do not acknowledge God, as you named them, atheists, secularists, humanists, theirs is also a belief system. So we can have interfaith dialogue and dialogue with secular humanist people. And I was at the Parliament of the World's Religions in Toronto in 2018. And sometimes we talk about people of faith and then the nuns, those who have no faith, N-O-N-E, the nuns. And one of the speakers at the Parliament objected vehemently to this. And he says, please, please, please do not refer to them as the nuns, because it implies a zero sum, that they have nothing to offer. But in fact, we have much to learn from them. And I mean, one of the things we can learn from them is, why does our faith seem so incredible to them? They can tell us, because we live it, we're inside it. We can't even face that question ourselves. But someone who's from outside of our belief system, who has another belief system, can challenge us. And of course, many of them also have fantastic value systems. And they practice love and kindness and compassion and care for the universe and working for justice in ways that sometimes put people of faith to shame. Like, we can do all these things because we might expect heavenly reward. Well, they're not expecting any reward, but they're still even more committed than we are sometimes doing the right thing, loving their neighbour, working for the environment, practicing social justice, and so on. Is that a little bit helpful of an answer?
Very helpful. Thank you so much.
I just like to add a
Okay.
little. I agree with Father Patrick. I also do not like the terms non-Muslims because it excludes the others. And the Quran never said that actually. Just say the beliefs like our Christian brother, our Hindu brother, etc. without saying none because it excludes them from us. And I forgot to mention that the father who was smoking spent the whole day fasting together with us. So he broke his fast by smoking. I forgot to add that one. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both for those responses, and Father Patrick, I feel like what you said about being able to learn from others, who even, including very much people of no faith, and just it really highlights how inter and intra-faith can often be an opportunity for us to learn about our own faith and understand ourselves better as well through the perspective of someone else. And for adding that element to your beautiful story, Ustaz Miftah. I really want to make sure we have time to get to Mas Mujib's question, which I think will be for both of our speakers. But before that, I just wanted to invite Kak Dina, if you'd like to ask a question, which, is quite specifically for Kiai Miftah, and I think really important to helping all of us understand the Indonesian context.
I would like to ask Kiai Miftah about how you navigate the challenge of being a Shia in Indonesia, because I think, in my opinion, when you are from completely different religion than Islam, for example, you are Christian or something, it's somewhat people will be more accepting because you will be seen as completely different than us, having different religion. But if we share the same religion, for example, Muslim, but we worship in a different way, it tend to be more judgmental for those who do the worship in different way. And it also applies with Shia, which is this same Muslim, same Islam, in the same Islam with us, but oftentimes be judged by Indonesian. And when I was a kid, I have experience to live with Shia family for years, and I saw firsthand that it's so hard for them to come out or embrace their identity to other people. So how you navigate that, even now you are Shia leader, how you address those challenge and stay true to your faith?
Masya Allah. Thank you very much for the question. I really appreciate it. First of all, based on experiences, people, friends, neighbors, everyone who want to ask me about my mazhab, my school of thought in Indonesia, they would start with these sentences. Maaf ya Pak, maaf. Yeah, it shows they are uneasy. They are not comfortable asking the question. So from that, I learned that basically, instinctively, naturally, they are open to differences, but they just would like to know. They are okay with differences. That's why they always ask with the question, maaf ya Pak, maaf, katanya Bapak Syiah. So there is, sorry Pak, sorry, I heard that you are a Syiah. And this is not something we avoid, because it opens up a door to explain. My default answer would be, what do you know about Shia? Because there are many said things about Shia, and sometimes I said, he or she is going to ask, are there more than one Shia? Yes, I said. One, there is Shia according to Google, and I'm not those kind of Shia. Because if you search Google, you type Google, Shia, many. So if you have information on Google, I'm not that kind of Shia. And second, there is Shia according to those who do not like Shia or have a hate speech against Shia. We are not that kind of Shia. Then they are going to ask, then what kind of Shia are you? Then I explain. And to my surprise, they're going to say, they're not much different with us. So then they know that we share, like, not the same, different. I mean, it opens up a discussion. So when someone asks, it actually is an opportunity for us. Thank you once again. I really appreciate for the question and for just adding up more about the interfaith interaction in Indonesia. For the past 2 years, I think you should Google up for those who don't know it yet. During the holy month of Ramadan, we have Ta'jil Wars. Yes. Ta'jil Wars is the maybe some of you could explain what Ta'jil War is. When our Christian brothers and sisters are fighting for the iftar dinner or the iftar appetizer. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Food and humor, both very important. But I love your answer to the different kinds of Shia, Ustaz Miftah. And I think that it's a really excellent example of as well of both educating but using humor to help conversations flow more easily.
Yes.
Which is often so very powerful.
Thank you. It can be applied also to everyone who may be facing the same situation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd now like to ask Mas Mujib. I think we have enough time to fit in your question, which is a really great reflection on the reality on the ground of some of the challenges that are faced. So please, Mas Mujib.
Okay, thank you, Rina, for the question. I think from the explanation of Kiai Miftah that
Mas Mujib, could I suggest just while you're asking your question, could you turn the volume down on your computer? Because I think the volume from your computer is going into your phone. So we're kind of hearing you twice. But give that a try and see how it goes.
Is it okay now? Is it okay now?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay, sorry. I think Father Patrick and Kiai Miftah had a very wonderful insight on inter and intra dialogue of religions. My question is, how can inter and intra-faith dialogue build greater inclusivity? When Christian, like in Indonesia, we had a very sad news that Christian perform their faith practices and worship, but Muslim community, disagree with that activity. So while Muslim women in Australia, like my friend, she is graduated from pesantren, but he now take off her hijab because of such harassment in the public area in USA, America, because she is the minority and wearing hijab and also Asian girl. I think the dialogue oftentimes refers to debate. Well, the debate between the inter and intra dialogue just to win. Like Mas Darul mentioned earlier, that people like to claim that they are the most true religion, either in intra dialogue between Muslim communities like Shia, Sunni, and so on and so forth. So actually, what are your suggestions to actually how we live peacefully in harmony? Because in Sunni, in our Nahdlatul Ulama, we learn about tawasud, moderation, and then tawazun, balance, and also tasamuh, tolerance, and itidal, justice. But in reality, it is difficult for us to educate our society in order to embrace the diversity, because my friends, Christian friends, he also told me that Jesus also teach us love and compassion. Prophet Muhammad also did the same thing, because in our religion, Prophet Muhammad mentioned that khairun nas anfa'ahum linnas, the best man who actually benefit most and giving more meaningful life to others. But I think all religions teaches love and compassion, how we live in harmony and peace. But in fact, the dialogue sometimes creates another dispute, because the dialogue tends to be the debate, and the debate is actually to win when there is a religion believers thinks that they lost from the debate or the dialogue, so another conflict is actually coming up. So in your perspective, or how we deal with this as Muslim and religious believers leader in our community, because sometimes it's complicated. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's certainly complicated. Thank you for the question. I would be very clear that dialogue is not debate. In debate, you're trying to win, as you said. So there's winners and losers. In dialogue, it's about mutual understanding. So both partners in the dialogue are enriched by what they learn from their dialogue partner. It's a win-win situation, not a win-lose. So I'm absolutely clear that debate is not dialogue. Dialogue is not debate. They're totally different genres of engagement. And debates are not going to help us, because they just exacerbate the differences and the divisions between us, whether that's intra-faith or interfaith. So that would be my first response to your question. The second would also be to acknowledge that, of course, there are huge difficulties in relations between religions. And usually the differences are not religious. The differences occur when religion is used, abused, or misused for some sectarian or ethnic or political purpose. When the transcendent commitment, which is proper to religion, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul and all your strength. When that transcendent commitment is diverted into some narrow sectarian cause, then there will inevitably be violence and bloodshed. And that happens, of course, when there's ignorance, when people don't know their religion, when they are misled by leaders of sectarian movements. Christians in Nigeria, for example, suffer horrendously at times from extremists. Christians in Pakistan suffer at times from communal violence. I have seen it with my own eyes. I know what it's like. Christians and Muslims in India can suffer violence from the Hindutva regime, the Muslims of the Rohingya Muslims, and so on. What's happening to the people of Gaza is another example of horrendous violence. So it's not to deny that violence does occur, but when it does, it's the misuse and abuse of religion, and it stems from ignorance, not from true religion. True religion will always promote truth, justice, mercy, and compassion. As you said, all the religions teach mercy and compassion. So that will be true religion. Anything which leads to violence and bloodshed, cannot come from authentic religion. So I hope that in some way responds to your question. Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much, Father Patrick, and also Ustad Miftah, if you have any advice on how to navigate challenging.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Usually in Indonesia case, and I think Mas Mujib also is he is familiar with it. Problems come when there is political interest, and this is not about religion, about tolerance. It's about politics. We are not going to talk about that, but once a friend told me, Mas Mujib, for example, from NU, and our Ansor brothers, usually during Christmas, they are guarding churches. And some said to me, beautiful, isn't it? That we live together, we are guarding the churches. And I said, yes, it is. And it will be much more beautiful if we don't have to guard it. Yes. Yeah, it will be more beautiful if we don't have to be there in the first place. Yes, we are going to be there to celebrate, to say our, maybe I am going to touch a sensitive subject, because when I teach pluralism in the university, some of my students still see that even saying Merry Christmas to our Christian brothers is not allowed, because it is a sign of being converted. Luckily, in my class, back then, my class was not about Islam, it was about religion. So I have students from many places, even another countries with different background. I have Christian students, I have other faith students. And then I ask the students, the Christian students, now when your Muslim brother said Merry Christmas to you, do you accept him to be your Christian brother? He said, no. I said, pity him, because he is expelled from his religion, but not being accepted by the other. So he's in between. He's not a Muslim, not also a Christian, for example. Now, sometimes even for as simple as saying Merry Christmas, we need to start from there. Yeah. Sometimes even by saying Merry Christmas, we will be judged, we will be accused, you are converting to Christianity. And I still remember in my class, I said, now I'm going to say my view, and whoever religion says otherwise and could prove it otherwise, he may leave my class for the rest of the semester, or they give him an A. And I write down the golden rule that we should be happy when other is happy, and we should be sad when the other is sad. Is there any religion that does not teach this? Don't believe in this? Now, when our Christian brothers are happy, what is our obligation? We are also happy for them. I still remember one of my students then said, okay, then I argument, then I'm just going to say congratulations. That's all. I'm not going to say Christmas. Just congratulations. It's not going to say Merry Christmas, because when saying Christmas, it means acknowledging that Jesus born on that special day, etc. So I'm just going to say Selamat without Natal. Just say congratulations without Christmas. I said, that's okay. That's already one step ahead. We take it step by step, I think, from daily situation like that. Thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you. I feel like your answers beautifully complemented each other, with that sense that the really important distinction between dialogue versus debate, and then also the examples that Ustad Miftah gave of where not only can where we can take those teachings that are core to all of our religions and enable us as people of faith to be part of the solution to those challenges that do exist. So not necessarily, we can be there guarding a church if if we're in a situation where that is needed. We can wish a Merry Christmas or a Happy Eid to people that we know. We can make small changes in those spaces by living out the teachings which we know are at the core of all of our faiths. Please, we have run out of time today, but please do join me in thanking both of our wonderful speakers today. I feel like there's been such a beautiful sense of just a beautiful reminder of what the heart of being a person of faith means, regardless of which traditions we come from and the richness of those traditions that we do come from, but that core central heart that is really there across all traditions when we listen to our own traditions and to each other. Everyone, please do join me in the chat or with your emojis on Zoom, or you're welcome to unmute briefly to thank our speakers, both of whom have very busy schedules at the moment, and we're so grateful that you have been able to make the time to be with us today. What we will now do is invite our delegates to go into breakout rooms. They'll have about 20 minutes in those rooms together where they'll reflect on what stood out for them most from our discussion with both of you today. And then the second question is one to reflect on of what do you find most challenging about dialogue with people of different faiths. And I mean, I love the different forms that dialogue can take that Father Patrick and Ustaz Miftah both touched on today. So that really broad sense of dialogue. What do you find most challenging about dialogue with people of different faiths or different Islamic madhabs to yourself? And also of interest, which do you find more challenging? More challenging or more rewarding, perhaps? Inter or intra-faith dialogue. So yeah, a few things to reflect on there. If our team could open up the breakout rooms, excellent, there they are. And thank you once again, Ustaz Miftah and Father Patrick. Yeah, let's dive into reporting back. How about room 2? Anjo, Mas Darul, Mbak Ajeng, Mas Mujib, and Mas Mujib again on 2 devices. Would anyone like to share back a highlight or 2 from your discussion? Is there anyone in that room that we haven't heard from? I feel like you're pretty good at. I feel like we've probably heard. I mean, I'd still like to hear from one of you. I'm just trying to decide if there's someone in particular I'd like to pick on. Anjum, please.
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that. No, that was okay. Bismillah. Mashallah, robust discussion as always. We discussed about we reflected on the intra and inter discussion, and how actually, subhanAllah, sometimes it's the intra that is more challenging than the inter. And we discussed about how sometimes, it's not even the faith aspect, it's actually a humanity aspect. So it's more of a human issue than it is a religion issue. And then it comes from, we discussed that sometimes it's your personality. So we ended up discussing about the humor aspect, which was really good. And we all of us really enjoyed that aspect about the humor and bringing that to light. But then Ustaz Mujib made a good point, which is like, yeah, but it depends on your personality, because some people find that offensive. They might think that you're being offensive towards religion. And then we went down that discussion as seeing at like what is it like in Indonesia, what is it like in the Western context, as to how do people find humor and religion. And also I think we dwelled on what the Ustaz said about that it's not for public consumption, which I personally really liked, because sometimes you can have a joke between friends and you guys get it and you're not going to be offended, but if somebody else was to hear it, they would be really, really offended. So subhanAllah, that was we really robust discussion about that. And I don't know, Ustaz Darul, am I missing anything? Over to you. You can continue.
What can I share as well? Sorry, Britta, this is what we're talking about in the chat. What I really liked about the story with Ustad Miftah and Gus Nadir was the level of trust that they both have with each other. That they feel comfortable teasing each other about these theological issues that, you know, they could be like trying to kill each other or something. But anyway, but sorry. I like that. I really like.
Probably not quite that extreme, but yes, yeah. The trust that was there. Thank you so much. Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, it sounds really robust because I mean, I think it's easy to say, oh, you just do X, Y, Z, but it sounds like a really robust discussion about, yeah, what does that actually look like though? And the fact that not the same approach works for every person that you're going to meet. So yeah, no, that's really lovely. How about room number 3? Ala, Mbak Dina, Mas Hibat, Mbak Ismi, and Kudrat.
You want to pick? I think Brenna should pick.
I should pick
because I was nominated.
Well, Mas Hibat just unmuted, so you can.
Yeah, I unmute to vote Ala actually, but okay. Let me point out some thing that we are discussed. The one thing that's more challenging in our discussion about the dialogue is intra-faith, mostly because of 3 of us is from Indonesia. In Indonesia, majority is Muslim, so that we are debating each other in Muslim because the Muslim is so big. Even we are debating in the Sunni and Shia, we are debating in etc. So it's more challenging to talk, to have a dialogue within the Muslim itself, in general, just like that. And then I just want to share my personal experience in this evening class. Actually, in the first time listening to what, especially when Father Patrick tell us about the conflict that happened in Palestine and in Israel, and he said that he is neutral about that because he is pro-inhumanity, which is pro-inhumanity is a good thing. But when I hear he is put on neutral position, actually my personal feeling is kind of triggered because I'm in Indonesia, one of the in the front line to voice about Palestine. I do respect, disclaimer, I do respect Father Patrick. I research about him and etc. But it's kind of triggered for me. But the issue is not in the Father Patrick Islam. The issue is on myself. Now that I have a reflection to. For me, I have a reflection how to be still open mind, still inclusive, while when we are meeting or discussion with the people or someone have a really different or really head-to-head issue or standing position. How can we be still open mind? How can we still be inclusive, but in the same time, how we can still standing still with what we sure, what we have faith on him. So this is my internal work. This evening is being my learning experience that's meaningful and deep for me actually. Thank you.
Yeah, no, 100%. I can absolutely relate to what you're saying, Ms. Mashibat, and it is. I mean, I'm sure that Australians in particular have probably navigated that kind of space. I know that I've certainly come across people that I have great respect for in the Australian context who perhaps don't have a lot of connection with Muslim, or I mean, Muslim is probably not the right word. It's also just pro-Palestinian people in their lives, and perhaps do have contact with some people who are more familiar with or even have family connections with Israel, who do sometimes speak about it as a neutral space. I'm not neutral, but as in like seeing both sides. And I think I absolutely understand how that can be incredibly triggering. And at the same time, it's kind of this process of sort of going, okay, when you actually that how to process that and how to recognize the humanity in all aspects, you know, even within that context of the overwhelming suffering in Palestine. But yeah, I'm not going to do justice to that.
Can I just add, just from an Australian
go for it. Save me, Ella.
And I felt like as Muslims, it's really hard to have interfaith dialogue because we're always put in a position where we're defending or and education is defending our rights. So, okay, why are you wearing hijab? You're oppressed. Or like the same thing with Palestine, you have to then go into the history and inform them how we're like persecuted. So I always feel it's never a very nice like conversation about what motivates you spiritually, what is your belief. It's like, oh, you know, we're not all terrorists and we're not, it's always defending extremism. And I feel that, yeah, that's just something that we always feel we're always in the back foot. So yeah, it's very hard to have those conversations.
Can I add one thing as well? Yeah. One of the things I always say to people is my identities walk into the room before I ever do. So I have to, you know, Muslim, brown, woman, like you have to justify all three of those before they even get to know who you are as a person to start the dialogue. So I think from that point of view, from a Western perspective, it's a difference that I think is obviously going to be very different from like the Indonesian perspective of being in the majority, which always, you're always kind of on the back foot, I guess. So just adding on to what Ella was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look, that is, it's one of those things that I think this session and the experience through this program, it really highlights is the fact that we have these beautiful points of commonality in terms of our shared faith and many shared traditions. But then in terms of the experience that you just spoke about, Ala and Juliana, I imagine that someone like Mbak Ismi and Mbak Anissa, who have both been involved in, Mbak Ajeng, I'm looking at you. I mean, probably Mbak Ismi as well, but particularly thinking of Mbak Ajeng and Mbak Nisa, who have both been involved in the interfaith space in Indonesia. I imagine you guys have probably heard very similar things said from minority communities in Indonesia. So it's just this, it's a really interesting aspect of our dialogue of that minority versus majority discussion as well. Let me see. Oh, actually, I should have mentioned as well, Mbak Erin, of course. So room for Mbak Erin, Iman, Mas Mirza, Ridwan, and Sami. And Mbak Erin, I feel like I want to pick on you if you're willing to be picked on to report back, because I think you haven't reported back from a group. I don't remember everyone, but for some reason, I'm sorry, I remember. I don't know if you're able to unmute. I can see that you don't have your camera on, so you may actually legitimately be away from the computer at the moment.
Sorry, I think Erin, she's very noisy environment, maybe.
Okay. All right. No worries. In that case, that is okay. Someone else from the group.
Okay, let me tell about our discussion. We have so intensive discussion about the interfaith perspective in Indonesia and the Australia. But we have a funny thing about being Indonesia, about intra-faith discussion or dialogue. When we move in other cities or in other region in Indonesia, our neighbor always asks about, are you NU or Muhammadiyah, rather than are you Muslim or Christian? So this is the first time that the interfaith dialogue starting in the neighbor, our neighbor. That's the funny things more about this one is the NU and Muhammadiyah debate a lot of things about the Hunut or something about their religion, the Islam perspective. However, the dialogue will be same, or the interfaith dialogue will be become richer when we passing the Eid Fitri or with like Takjil war or something like that. So it's an example of interfaith dialogue was starting in Indonesia. Thank you.
I think that's very true. You know, it absolutely amazes me how many applications, like, because we read a lot of motivation letters from Indonesia, and the motivation letter is the space for people to share your story. So many stories from Indonesia are like, my first experience of meeting people who are different from me was when I met someone who was NU and I was Muhammadiyah, or vice versa. And like, I didn't have any friends from those communities growing up. My family told me that they were wrong. You know, it's a joke, but it's also very real, I think, for people who grow up in a really strong community, because it's such a, you know, it's not like a, it's a bit like in Australia, like being a part of a sporting club. You know, like there's that real sense of community. It's an important part of people's identity. So yeah, I'm really glad that people are getting awareness of that aspect as well. And yes, I noticed that Rowan wrote a comment which I haven't actually read, but I hope that I navigated my response
Could I add
on the
something
complexities
as well,
before.
please?
Sorry?
I think we don't have time. It's 9 o'clock.
Oh, it's 9 o'clock. It is. My apologies.
Time's flown.
It has flown by.
Anyway.
Can I ask for sorry, maybe I'll go for a really quick report back from room 1, and then you can add your extra point for people who are able to stay, Ridwan. So I think we've got Mas Fatur, Tehnisa, Mbak Bani, and Juliana.
Yeah, okay. I will add some short summary from my group, discussion from my group. So yeah, we try to discuss about our different experience because we live in a different city as well. So for example, like Juliana's experience before, she had like a very different experience in Australia and in Malaysia, because in Malaysia is more diverse, but in a positive way. And in Java Island as well, it's a very different. I noticed that Mbak Nisa also shared about West Java, that more than 90%, if I'm not mistaken, they are all Muslim. So even when Mbak Anissa asked to students about, do they have friends from different religion, they say no. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting, because me and also Pak Fatur, who live in Surabaya and Yogyakarta, we have like a more diverse culture and also people. And one thing that I notice is we have to create dialogue, so we cannot just wait, like Mbak Anissa said, we cannot just wait the dialogue, but we have to create the dialogue. We have to proactive to it. And I think working together in some issues and like reaching a goal in some issues, like in my work area, like disaster, this kind of way, real interaction between people who have different faith is very, very effective, because we can fade away our prejudice or negative perspective. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for those reflections as well, Mbak Bani. It is 3:09, so Ridwan, maybe if you are happy to share your chat in the or like, is it like 15-second
Yeah, totally agree with just Bani. It's especially it's incumbent on Muslims here to be proactive in this space, and the Islamic Museum of Australia and Islamic Council of Victoria are doing fine work in that area, especially with mosque open days for non-Muslims to understand about our religion. And I'll leave it on a positive note. After the Christchurch massacre, I was very proud during those times, very difficult for me. I think all of humanity, especially all Australians, how Australians came together and so many non-Muslims visited mosques, left flowers, positive messages. And I think that was a really turning point between intercultural, intercommunal relations in Australia. Yeah, just I was so proud how everybody came together during those tragic times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very, very much something that was felt in Australia. Thank you all so much for your reflections. I feel like it's been a really powerful journey of reflecting on several aspects of what it means to be part of faith communities tonight. It is really important to share. I mean, I think there's many different aspects to the Muslim experience in Australia, and that's why it's so valuable to have all of you guys, I mean, from both sides, on both in Australia and Indonesia, the complexity of our experiences and the fact that there are both positives and negatives in all of their different shades. So thank you, everybody. Please do feel free to continue in the WhatsApp. I know there's a few WhatsApp groups that are alive and well with conversation. There's some others that I haven't quite started yet. So if anyone wants to jump in and ask a question ahead of me, which I think someone did do. Ridwan, you did. Thank you. You got the curriculum conversation going. I appreciate it. So inshallah, we're looking forward to our final thematic discussion this Thursday on social entrepreneurship. So have your questions ready on how to create sustainable models. I'm sure some of you will also have solutions and tips that you have to contribute from your own experiences, but we've got two amazing speakers from both Indonesia and Australia who happen to both be alumni of AIMEP, actually, from a long time ago now, but who have done incredible work in the social entrepreneurship space. So I'm really looking forward to getting some tips from them as well. We are also in the process of finalizing almost, inshallah, the program for Indonesia. So really excited to hopefully be able to share that with you guys next week. I was just saying that we have just confirmed when I was chatting before anyway, we've confirmed our welcome event with the embassy, where inshallah will be hosted by the Australian ambassador to Indonesia. So I'm really looking forward to him being able to meet all our amazing, inspiring delegates for this year, inshallah. And lots of other exciting meetings to come as well. But it is well past 9 o'clock. Thank you so much, everyone, for your sharing and your reflection and your thoughtfulness, as always. And we look forward to seeing you on Thursday.